All right.
What's up, everybody? It's the Mayberries, and we're back.
And we are back.
Episode 3.
Yeah.
Life with the Mayberries. We have been having an awesome time just sharing our journey, our marital journey with you guys, and talking about baggage and the effects of that baggage on children and all of that good stuff. And now we want to get into some relationship stuff.
Yes.
We want to talk about some relational things. So this episode is going to focus just on that. We have a couple of questions that we want to address, and then we are going to flow from there. We hope you guys are enjoying us so far. Remember, if you have any questions, any topics, anything that you would like us to talk about, you can drop that in the comment section, and we'll check that out, and we'll be sure to respond. So the first question is for you, woman of God.
Yes.
How did you go from not caring to not quitting? So you were this cold-hearted, not drug dealer, but mover. What do you call it? Whatever your position was. So it was easy for you to detach. And then you marry somebody like me with all of this baggage. So how did you go from not caring to just not quitting?
All right. So when given the question, I had to actually ask myself and to put words to the process of it, because I know what the process was for me, but for I guess for the audience to understand it and for them to apply it for themselves is to helping their spouse. One of the things that was very key for me was identifying why I was so cold, why I was so distant. And so I had to basically acknowledge that part of it. And so from there, I began to understand that part of my detachment from building relationships with people or just really sincerely loving someone was out of a self-protection, because I was afraid to be let down if I say I love this person and they walk out of my life. And so when I got married, I would say I love my husband and I love what we were doing and how we were building our marriage, but there was always a detachment there. And so because of that, I had to go back and see the reason of the detachment. And so my detachment actually came in at a very early age with just situations in my childhood. And so I would say what started to create the conversation for me personally of understanding how to handle my detachment and how it was affecting my spouse and how it was affecting my household, I had to realize that I was hurting myself because I wasn't allowing my husband to be my covering. And so from there, I realized that I was doing you an injustice with it.
Glad you realized that.
So, and then also started realizing that this was not the way to live. I wasn't experiencing the truth of what a covenant was, and I wasn't experiencing, the promises that God promises, when it comes to, marriage, because of my own situation as far as me having a issue with bringing people in so close. I don't want to be long-winded because it was an entire process, but so I'm trying to give you the entire process of where it took 2 years of the process within 5 minutes or whatever of this YouTube. And so one of the things that I, again, was addressing my issue as to why I was so distant, why I was so cold. And so basically me addressing
you did some self-work.
I had to do self-work. I couldn't point the finger and say it was because my husband did this or an individual did this, but it was more so me understanding why I was so cold.
How did you, moving into doing self-work and addressing your own issues, because I think that takes a mature perspective. Sometimes it's easy for us to just, when things are happening in marriage, relationship, whatever, it's easy to just point the finger at whatever the other person is doing. But for you, even in the midst of everything that we were dealing with, you stopped and said, I've got to look at myself and I've got to address these issues within me that may be contributing to some of the issues that we were facing. So instead of walking away, which I think at one point it would have been easy for you to do, how did you make the decision to stick around? You didn't quit.
No, I didn't quit. I think about what I always say is that when another wife comes to me, it always depending on their perspective of the situation. And so some women are just like, no, that's it. I'm walking away. There's no such thing as counseling. There's no such thing as me, figuring out what I did or any of that. So sometimes it really deals with the perspective. So me personally, I'm not one who gives up on a situation, on people. And so it was hard for me to even create that that verbiage even towards you
Yeah.
in that moment. And so again, it goes back to the person. So with the individual that's trying to understand or trying to love their spouse and trying to, figure out, how do I stop being so cold?
Yeah.
Go back to the moment you started being cold. I hate saying cold, but distant,
detached.
not loving,
Yeah,
detached,
yeah.
not being the not basically representing,
You
the
learned
love.
how to protect yourself.
Yeah, and
so you had to address the fact that you learned how to put that wall of protection up.
The wall. So the thing about it is, and so with a lot of women, when they get married, they come in, of course, with the baggage, like we talk about, but they come in with a lot of walls as well. And so the walls are built up either from molestation, loss of having a father figure, loss of having true parenting when they were growing up. And so those were all the things that I came up with, a wall that I built from a young age. And so my detachment to not love you was not because of you, not because of what you did, but the wall was already there when I entered into the marriage.
So how did you not quit? Like I brought a lot of issues and a lot of baggage into the marriage. I'll be the first one to admit that. I brought a lot in, and I put you through a lot emotionally. How'd you do that?
It goes back to I don't want to say I don't.
Development in your relationship with God?
It was the development in my relationship with God, but it was also because I knew that this was not, I knew that there was more. I knew that I loved you, and I knew that I was facing something that wanted me to turn my back on you. And so sometimes I always look at the bigger picture with any situation. What is the bigger picture? If I give up, if I quit, how does this create a scenario for the rest of my life? Wow. And so I always stop and think, okay, if I respond like this in this moment, my reaction can either destroy my spouse at the time, or or my future children, or my life, and different things like that. And so for me, I wasn't able to quit because I knew that there was a promise, and there was something that I had to fight to get to the promise. Now the war in itself had to start with me, because I know that love is what you needed, and love casts out, but I knew in that moment that I had to find out why I couldn't love, why I was so distant, why I was protecting myself, doing all these things so that I couldn't experience the promise of, God giving you to me, in the sense.
So it sounds like that desire to see the promise fulfilled.
The desire of it.
The desire to see more is what kept you from giving up. That's what pushed you to do the self-work. That's what pushed you, even in moments when you wanted to quit.
Right, because this is the thing. So I always say, when we go and journey back to our past, especially as the little girl, with now you being a spouse, it's important to realize what you didn't get when you were a child, because what you didn't get when you were a little girl, it will affect how you perceive your spouse, right? Yeah. And so I had to realize that in that moment, I knew that I wanted to be loved.
Wow.
I wanted to feel safe. I wanted to walk into my home and just laugh. I wanted all these things, but my environment, from being as a little girl, I didn't receive those things. So what I had to focus on was just building the wall of protection. So I damaged myself doing that, and then when I got married, it affected you. So the question at hand is, I built the wall, so therefore I wouldn't let anyone come in, whether it was regardless if it was friends or whatever. So all of that affected. And so when it came to me with you being my husband, and us, experiencing those things early in our marriage, it was very important for me to make sure that I destroy the detachment, because if I continued the detachment, it had the ability to continue to kill you. And so, and then I had to start looking at the true definition of what a wife is. Like I wouldn't be able to help you if I wasn't able to love you.
That's good.
Don't get it, but and so I had to realize that I had to deal with my definition of what love really was,
and what it meant to really be a wife.
What it really meant to be a wife.
That's a powerful answer to that question. I think that's the.
I hope that answers it.
Yeah,
because it's a process.
I think that's the key.
It took 2 years. Yeah, because it was a lot of digging, it was a lot of journey, and it was a lot of but
2 hard years.
Yeah, it wasn't hard.
Yeah, first of all,
I don't make things complicated. I don't make things complicated. I don't.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
people that's out there that's got discerning spirits will know the truth.
No.
The truth will make you free. I think that was a great response to that question. So hopefully that answered that question. If you want to follow up to that or have another question, be sure to ask it. So our next question was, what do you do when the sex stops happening?
When the sex stops?
It stops. Cut off. Dry. No more.
Oh,
you ain't getting it.
Why
Ain't
we
giving
both
it.
sit up and like...
Because this is a good one. What do you do when the sex stops happening? You know, I think this is it's more than just a hormonal issue. I think it speaks to a loss of intimacy. When you have an issue or situation in your marriage where that part of your marriage has kind of stopped, taken a pause, whatever, for any amount of time, if it's not a medical issue, you know, if it's not that type of situation where there's nothing that either one of you can do about it, when you find that that's not the case, then you need to start addressing your intimacy. So where in your marriage are you lacking intimacy? Where in your relationship is something not being responded to within you? And I think that we put a lot of emphasis on the fact that women are more emotional. And so those moments are more emotional for women, and men can just do it. But I would like to offer that there's an emotional component to that for men as well. And so if we feel like we've been shut down by you, if we feel like you don't love us, if we feel like you don't care about us, if that love is being lost and that intimacy is no longer there, that connection is no longer there, then it's not going to happen. And so when that happens in your marriage, you have to be willing to be honest about what's really going on inside of you. And for men, that is absolutely positively difficult, because it's not always easy for us to open up about our feelings. It's not always easy for us to talk about, you know, what's really bothering us. We see that as, you know, sometimes as a hit against our manhood, you know, when that intimacy is not happening, or our inability to perform. But what we even found, because we went through a similar situation a few years back, where, you know, we had to address why is the desire gone? What is going on? And I had to be honest about the fact that I did not feel connected to her. I felt like there was some, you know, maybe she didn't love me. At one point I felt like, you know, we were in the struggle. I felt like when I finally started making real money and finally started, you know, being able to shower her with expensive gifts and all of that, then the love would turn on. So maybe she's only with me because she want money. You know, so it was just a bunch of things running through my head. My own personal esteem issues. I thought you were a gold digger. I still struggle with this sometimes.
Yeah, because I
thought you were a gold digger.
I came into marriage making my money.
Whatever. I thought, you know, we're talking about what I felt.
Right.
And I felt.
Which is why it's important to make sure you destroy deception. Because you will deceive yourself into thinking that your spouse
whatever you
wants your
call
money.
it.
But during this time, this was still the time that I was treating you, because I had those walls up.
Well, yeah, and
So
that was something that we had, but we would not have gotten to the bottom of that if we had just stopped at the fact that we weren't having sex. We were not being intimate with one another in that way. We wouldn't have gotten to the deeper issues. And a lot of times in marriage, you know, communication begins to fail when you are unwilling to be honest about what's really going on. You stop at the surface. So in this case, the surface would have been, the sex is dried up, it's not happening, so we might as well just deal with it. It is what it is. We could have just stopped there, and either the marriage could have ended, or we could have just had a miserable one. Or we could have taken the path, which we did, of opening up communication about what's really happening. And so opening that communication up led to me eventually feeling safe enough expressing to her, because I wanted my marriage. I loved her, very attracted to her. There was nothing about her that was turning me off, you know, physically or otherwise. It was just, I did not feel loved by her the way that I wanted to feel. And so we had to have some real hard conversations about what does love look like for you. You know, we had to talk about, you know, what does it mean to what can I do to make you know or show you that I love you? And what I had to answer in me, I had to address my issues with self-hatred. I had to address my issues with my own self-esteem. I had to address my own personal, internal issues that even if she was showing me all the love in the world, I would not have been able to receive it. So that just opened us up to a whole world of healing, actually, because addressing those issues, I started to learn the importance for me of loving myself, of valuing myself, of taking care of myself, of seeing myself differently, so that when she was showing me love and when her walls were starting to come down and she wanted to, be intimate with me, I wouldn't push her away because of my own issues. So I had to deal with that. And once I started dealing with that and she started dealing with her stuff, I think we started to see a turnaround.
Yeah, we started realizing the importance of communication.
Yeah.
We realized that from there it created the conversation of learning each other's love language.
Oh, yeah.
The importance of that and how I can communicate you through your love language. Now, I will say that over the years, love language has changed.
Yeah, we're not the same people that we were 15 years ago.
We're not the same people. We're not the same people 15 years ago.
And I think that is a key that a lot of couples need to remember as well. You are not the same person that you were when you first met. So whether it's 5 years ago, 6 years ago, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, you have to go back and address when there's a change in your love language. So what moved you 15 years ago may not move you today. There's a different expectation.
I think that's the same even when it comes to sex.
Absolutely.
The first night.
What moved you 15 years ago ain't gonna move you.
I mean,
today.
the same person. You don't.
The same person, but we, some new tricks, new positions, new things. You have to be willing to open up that conversation. I mean, that's a real thing.
It's a thing about. That's one of the things that I love about marriage.
Don't be shy.
I'm not shy.
Don't be shy.
One of the things that I love about marriage is that you get to evolve with your best friend. You get to evolve with the love of your life, and so
I'm your best friend.
You are going to get you. So I think that's one of the things that I love about it. And so you get to evolve in your communication, you get to evolve in your finances and your sex life and your parenting skills. Yeah. And so you learn from each other.
Absolutely.
And you become a better person from there. So,
but it starts by opening up that honest communication.
You have to be honest.
You have to be honest about, you can't just go mute. Yeah. That's the worst thing you can, and people go mute for different reasons. Either I just don't feel like addressing it, I don't feel like the drama that's going to come with it, or I don't want to hurt the other person's feelings. So I choose to live a life of internal misery because you are miserable in a way, and it's going to continue to grow when you refuse to be honest about what's going on. And don't take that surface level excuse or answer. But on the other side of that, you have to be able to assure your spouse that I'm not going to judge you. I don't love you any less. I am committing to walking through whatever it is with. That's that humbling yourself. Whatever it is that's going on, I'm willing to hold your hand if you're willing to, and we're going to walk through this together, but be honest with me. And she was able to do that for me. I was able to do that for her. After a while of us missing one another in our communication, we were finally able to get to the place where we said, listen, neither one of us are going to walk away from this. This thing is till death do us part. So what do we need to do to fix this? And so then it created a safe space for me to be honest, for her to be honest, and then for us to do the work to start changing what we were doing, how we were treating one another, how we were responding to one another, that ultimately led to that rekindling, relighting that flame, that romance started to return, that intimacy started to return, but it was natural. It wasn't just like, okay, is it going to happen tonight? All right, is it going to happen today? It was a natural connection because we started to answer one another's calls or cries again, internally and emotionally. And so we had to talk about, 5 years ago, this was your love language. Okay, what's your love language today? What can I do, or what is it that I do that makes you respond, in a great way, or that makes you feel like I love you, I care about you, and that I value, what we have. So we had to be willing to have that conversation about those changes and about the growth that we both had made. Yeah. Absolutely.
I definitely agree.
Yeah. So now we have a great love life.
Yeah.
No dry spells.
No.
It's wonderful. And you try new things.
Okay.
When you're comfortable. And as you're comfortable, we'll talk about that later. Don't be shy, Shakita.
I'm not sure. I just didn't know that's what we were talking about.
Well, yeah, I mean, you have to talk about
I
where the disconnect
I agree.
comes in.
Okay, I agree with it. I'm not,
We don't have to talk
as
about
long as it's helping the people, I'm very open.
I think that
honest.
helps people because sometimes people get stuck in tradition.
Yeah, tradition.
We have to do it one way. We have to do the. I mean, that's a real thing.
Let's be honest. I wasn't, never mind.
You wasn't what?
Nothing. Anyway, next.
You wasn't what?
Next.
Whatever the case may be, it's good today.
Yeah, but we had to, journey with each other. I hate when I hate to use the word hate. I hate to hate.
That's
like
okay.
But I dislike when women complain about their spouse and they're not willing to do the work themselves.
Yes.
That's one of the things that I have to stop. And I love helping women and and encouraging them in their marriage. But I always have to say, and it's not to judge them, but you cannot be walking through your house being a complainer and complaining about the fact that they're a bomb and everything else. Like, that they don't do anything. It's like, well, how often have you spoken to like the king aspect of him or, the good benefits of him or highlighting to build him up. And so that's one of the things I think it comes down to even with sex is the women always say, well, he ain't, he don't want to have sex with me or, all these things. And it's like, well, how often have you talked to him? Like, this is not something you're treating as like a booty call type of thing. Like,
are you speaking to the leader?
Yeah, are you speaking to the leader in this person, or you just want him? So that's one of the things that I encourage women to do. I say, I think I got game when it comes to spitting that game but I do. Because yours is lame. It's just like whatever.
You said put on the front on this camera for these people.
But no, it's not up front. But the game is different. What I do is, I'm texting him throughout the day. I'm letting him know I'm thinking about him. And so therefore, when he comes through the house, it's not like I've been gone from home for 8 hours. Or once I get back home from work, I'm tired and he's tired. He's frustrated. But we find joy in the fact that we are both finally home in each other's arms.
But we work with one another. And I think conversely, what I try to encourage men to do is build your wife up. Speak life into your wife. Speak life into her vision. Speak life into who she is. Nobody should tell your wife that she's more beautiful than you do. Pay attention to the small things, the small communication. She just mentions in passing, I want this or I like this or I whatever, and then down the line, you order it and surprise her with it. But doing things that I don't do that.
No, you do.
Okay.
No,
right,
I thought you was about
down.
No, I thought you
tell these people.
I thought you was going to say something else.
Yeah. Okay. Well, you have to respond to that. So, men, you have to be willing, just like you want her to build you up. You have to be willing to build her up too, and pay attention to what's important to her. I don't like a dirty house. I don't like a smelly house. She don't like a dirty house. And so, one of the things that she committed to early on in our marriage is keeping a clean house. I come home to a clean house, a clean bedroom, a clean woman. Hello. She don't put on that good smelling Bath and Body Works lotion on top of an unwashed body. So that is what I appreciate, and she responds to that. Some women that do that, and she responds to that. So all in all, we have to pay attention to what's important to one another, and sometimes what we dismiss as unimportant or as a small issue might be big to that other person. So no communication is off limits in a relationship. You need to open up all communication if you want it to work, and you have to be willing to be honest about what's going on with you. So if it's dried up, if it's stopped, then you need to talk about the deeper issues. What's going on in you that's keeping this from happening? And if you need to go through therapy, go through counseling individually and as a couple, don't be afraid to do that. But whatever it is, don't just give up on that portion or that aspect of your marriage, but be willing to go through the process to do the work to see it restored. I'm glad we didn't give up.
I just had to turn out the light. A lot I can do. Jay, okay.
So I think all in all, it's a communication thing. It's an issue of intimacy.
Absolutely.
Communication.
Is sex a part of communication?
Absolutely. You communicate with one. Hello.
So you can't.
It's a time of coming together, and I communicate to you.
Oh my God! But it's important to make sure you are communicating verbally.
Yeah.
emotionally.
Absolutely.
and sexually.
Don't just manifest it. Talk it through.
Talk it through.
Don't walk
Talk
around
to
slamming
your
doors
spouse.
and throwing stuff across the room. Just grow up, sit down
Yeah.
and talk about it. Now, every now and then I slam a door occasionally, or whatever, but we come back,
Yeah.
and I tend to be the one sometimes to apologize first and open up that communication, and we sit down and we deal with it. Would you agree with that?
You are not the first to apologize. I am the first to apologize.
Well, that's not what we're talking about in this video. We think
I am the first to apologize because more than likely,
you were wrong first.
more than likely it's just not worth.
Whatever the case may
And that's
be.
something else we're going to talk about next time. Is it worth it? Like,
Well, is it worth it,
is
and
it
how to
worth
handle
it?
conflict? Oh my God. We're going to talk about that next time.
Yeah.
How to handle conflict, and is it worth it? Are you letting the sun go down on your wrath unnecessarily? Am I going to bed mad unnecessarily? You going days? We don't play that silent treatment stuff. Now, every now and then, because I am still a little stubborn and I'm still getting over it, and getting delivered from that. We struggle with it,
Yeah.
but we don't do that silent treatment. You go sleep on the couch, you go over here, we don't do that. We're going to sit down, we're going to talk about it, we're going to deal with it when we both cool off. But we're going to talk about that next time. But this time, if you're having issues of intimacy in your relationship, you need to sit down and have those hard conversations. What's really going on? All right? Thank y'all.
What's going on?
What's going on? So talk about it. All right. Thank you, guys.
Your spouse.
Yes, please talk to them.
Please communicate.
All right. Thank you guys for joining us for another episode of Life with the Mayberries. We've got some other exciting topics and things we're going to let you guys in on. But make sure you hit that subscribe button and share this with anyone you believe can benefit from it. And until next time, we'll see you guys soon.
Bye.